And with a wave of hand and a nod, Mr. Ash announces Viewpoint. Program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Well, we've got two out of the three, and that's not bad today. Personality and perspectives.
Well, that's better than politicians.
Today. Oh, boy, don't go there now. We'll get there next spring when the elections start again.
Oh, yeah.
Glad that you could make it up here, Mrs. Busby. Mrs. Busby's under duress today. She has to be at work by 9:15, and it might be that you might want to slip out of here just a few minutes ahead.
It isn't going to happen.
Okay, all righty. Well, then we'll work that out. Kudos. Doctor, we always try to start the program with a kudos something, and Mrs. Busby also has some this morning. Number one, I just noted this morning that the Habitat for Humanity, great organization in our community, 18th house is about to be finished or being undertaken. I forgot which I read on that. In any way, 18 houses.
It's dedicated Sunday.
Being dedicated this Sunday.
Yes.
You ought to read the rest of the article.
It's over. The building is done, and I've met the little gal who will be the homeowner. And
you read the whole article. I'm proud of you.
No, I went over there.
Oh. did her homework right. You might just, having been involved in that a little bit, you might just take a second and kind of tell how somebody can qualify for that, Judith K.
Well, they just have to take out the paperwork and complete it. And actually, they have to contribute with their time.
Sweat equity.
Sweat equity, and they'll have a mortgage and they'll pay for it. But it's done so that it's less expensive than my mortgage, you know.
Well, it's a wonderful opportunity.
It's a beautiful opportunity, and they are always looking for people who would like to explore this opportunity and possibly be a homeowner through Habitat for Humanity.
And it goes without saying that doesn't happen without a whole bunch of volunteers to get these places ready. So kudos to the Habitat for Humanity folks. Also, you and I were in attendance at the Lincoln Area Musical Society, or at least, it wasn't that per se, but a group of folks from the various churches in town who put on a nice program at St. John's and at Emmanuel Lutheran Sunday. Well done.
Beautiful.
Well done. Nicely done. And I see the Lambs, the Lincoln Area Musical Society, they're having a concert, I think, on the 21st and 22nd of this month. Is that correct?
The 22nd. I don't know about the 21st. Do you know about the 21st?
I'm not sure.
You don't know about the 21st. Nobody knows about
Well,
the 21st.
you have some kudos. We have a great guest, so let's get on with business at hand here.
Yeah, moving right along. Yes, I'd like to bring up Chuck Derber, Linda Ulrich. They had a rather extensive article that they wrote in response to Kelly McEvers'
well-crafted article.
Rather controversial. Kelly McEvers was rather controversial. And having known those people, Chuck and Linda, since they were kids, it was extra fun for me to read that because I know how they were raised. I know what their life was like. And I think it was representative of the way a lot of us have spent our years here in Lincoln and Logan County. And it was beautifully done. So hats off to Chuck and Linda. And then I'd like to thank Mother Nature for the moon on the breast of the new fallen snow last night. Did you notice it?
Pretty bright.
It was beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really bright.
It was a beauty.
I sat outside and read the paper.
You freeze your little...
Yes, I did.
That's why his back hurts this morning.
No wonder. It's got ice cubes on it.
That's it?
Well, that's all I have to say, except that I do want to introduce one of the girls who works at the same place I do, only she's in a different capacity by far than mine, Dr. Melissa Cox. She's a very fine physician, and her office is located at Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital. And we were talking the other day about stress, and poor Dr. Cox came in this morning and said that my having invited her here raised her stress level. But being a physician, she knows how to handle that. So we'll assume that you're feeling better by now.
It's fine.
I hope so. Well, Christmas season is a stressful time I think for people across the board, you worry about, I didn't get my cards done. Oh my gosh, I have to bake something. Oh goodness, what am I going to serve for Christmas dinner? Did I miss anybody in my gift buying? And it's just one thing and the next. So that, like last night, I wasted probably 2 hours sleeping, and the rest of the time...
Why didn't you call me?
Well, you could have come over. We could have just visited a while.
That's great. I had the same problem every night. So.
Oh, gosh, I tell you. And I think everybody's in the same boat at Christmas time. And you had some real insights into what's the matter with us that this happens to us. And I'd like to share that with lots and lots of people, because I think lots and lots of people could use it.
Oh, and we might add that we ought to put the phone number in. Somebody might have a question, Doctor, about this stress matter, particularly this holiday season, 648-5510. So with having been said, Doctor, pick it up from where Judy dropped it on the table for you.
Well, I think we do tend to have a lot of stress at this time. It's worse because everybody's supposed to be happy. It's the holidays. Everybody wants you to be gay and merry. And most of our families have some dysfunction. And it's not always easy to get along with Uncle Charlie that you see once a year, or Aunt Betty that always gives you the wrong gift. And so trying to work on ways to take care of yourself and to alleviate that stress is important. I think one of the best things, you said you wasted 2 hours sleeping. Sleep is never a waste. Sleep is one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves when we're stressed out, along with exercise and good eating. I was remembering back when I first started at the clinic in 2001, they had asked me to write a little article for the Springfield Clinic pamphlet for December, and it was about stress. And I went back and read it yesterday, and it's still very appropriate today.
Oh, no doubt.
Watching that you're eating well, that you're exercising, that you're taking care of you, because we give, and go. And sometimes we forget to put ourselves first, and that's really important. When you go to parties, make sure you're eating something healthy before you go, because most of us go to a potluck and we want a scoop of this and a scoop of that, and pretty soon we have 3 full plates because there are too many scoops, even if you only take a tablespoon. And then you go home and you feel stuffed and you feel guilty about ruining your diet, or overindulging in alcohol, and then you've sort of set yourself back. So having a game plan that you're gonna eat healthy fruits and vegetables maybe, or a small sandwich before you go to a party, and then make some good decisions along the way about which things you're going to pick, and let everybody know that you're trying to take care of yourself. So it's no offense to Grandma that you didn't eat her pumpkin pie, but what you're really wanting today is that chocolate chip cookie, and that's okay. You don't have to keep everybody happy, but you can explain yourself that it's all right that I don't eat something from everybody's
dish to pass.
Yeah.
Could we talk about exercise just a minute, Doctor, on that?
Sure.
That doesn't mean, although it's certainly a great thing to do, but that doesn't mean you have to go out to the gym and lift weights or anything like that. You're not referring to that type of exercise.
No.
Exercises we can do in our own home.
Absolutely.
Not even have to get out into the weather.
Absolutely.
To at least try to stay firm or limber. Not get all stove up.
Right.
I know folks that do get stove up once in a while. And I know one old guy that goes out and exercises and it still doesn't help very much. But a moderate exercise in your own home is perfectly fine.
Yes, it is. And it can be, if you're healthy enough to run up and down basement stairs, if you've got a big enough living room that you can do circles, if you've got a long driveway, not on weather like today when it's a little slick outside on the driveway, but if it's reasonable and the drive is clear, walking up and down 15 or 20 times, anything to get your heart going. If you've got an inside bicycle, got a treadmill, sometimes just any kind of chair activity. Cable's got lots of different programs for aerobics and things, even if you can do bits and pieces of it. Maybe you can't do the whole program.
We're evenly split here. We have 2 younger people and 2 who are no longer so younger.
I noted that.
And I think that would be Bill and me. And, you know, I think, and correct me, any one of you, if you think I'm wrong here, I think in the olden days when we were kids, stress wasn't a word, number one, because you weren't kind of like allowed to think about that. I mean, you had to do what you had to do, and don't talk to me about stress, you know. Furthermore, I think you were urged to not think about yourself. You were urged always to think about others, and you're supposed to be aware of you wouldn't want to let them down. You wouldn't want to hurt their feelings. You'd at all times want to be kind and thoughtful. And I think that maybe for we in this age group, stress might, if indeed it is a fact of life, might be something that's a little more present because you don't address it. It just be what it be, and you just live with it. Do you think I'm crazy? You see plenty of people who are not 29 anymore.
I think that there are two aspects of that. Yes, you're right in that a lot of older people do feel the obligation to send cards to the third grade teacher, that they still, that's the only card they get, that's the only communication that they get, that they have to satisfy everybody at the party and make sure that they are testing a little bit of everything of everybody's. But I also think that kids today are very egocentric.
Oh,
because everything is very now. You have Facebook, and you have Snapchat, and you have all of those things, instant messages that, you know, everything about everybody the second that it happens. And so sometimes we don't get out of our own circle and extend to what we should be doing. Then I think when you become a parent or an adult who has older parents that you're taking care of, that sort of sandwich generation, then I think that the focus goes off of yourself and you're taking care of everybody, and then you forget where you fit into this, and then your stress level can go up because you're not sleeping. You're wasted 2 hours last night. You're not taking care of yourself, eating. You're not getting the exercise because you're worried about getting Jimmy to the ball game, and you're taking mom to the doctor, or you're running somebody else to an appointment, and so then you kind of lose track of yourself. So I think it's a fine balance.
There's kind of an important thing that just ran through my mind. Don't look at me, there is one up there. Seriously. Older people who live alone, you mentioned eating, and I suspect, Doctor, that it's very common that they don't sit down to their usual 3 a day.
Right.
Or maybe even kind of skip it.
Right.
So what happens then is they lose a lot of nourishment and so forth.
Right.
So that creates medical problems, of course. But I suspect that the living alone, or yourself, particularly those who experience that in let's say, an overnight matter, there's a lot of stress there for those folks, and that's a different way to handle that, I imagine.
Well, anything that you can do as a family member to help out somebody, or maybe a neighbor who lives alone, when you're fixing a huge meal for, 4 kids and, the 2 parents, taking a segment of that out and taking it over to Mrs. Smith on Saturday and just sitting with her and making sure that she's got somebody, or making sure that you're calling Grandma and reminding her that you're bringing over brunch or supper. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Use what you have. They're thrilled to get a home-cooked meal that's not out of a box or, put in the microwave, from something you open up.
Yeah.
Right. And they need the companionship. Every meal tastes better if you have people with it, no matter if it's mac and cheese out of a box or whether it's a real gourmet meal. It's the companionship that's as important as the nourishment.
We're creatures we're herd animals. We really are.
We are.
We need other people around. To be alone is an awful thing for people.
You just mentioned it, eating alone, and just in the last few days, the Wall Street Journal has had a series of articles, 3 series, on what was really a shock to most of us, if not all, about lobotomizing World War II veterans, and it's a full-blown feature article. And what brings that to mind is I saw it on TV, again on the internet, on YouTube, and it featured the gentleman about whom the article, one of the gentlemen about whom the article was written, up of all places, across Wisconsin, the home of our roving reporter, Lois Harvey, and eating alone every morning breakfast at 10:30 on the dot. He showed up at this little diner up there in La Crosse, and he's become well known now, particularly as a result of this full-blown article in the Wall Street Journal, and which brings to a medical thing to mind to me. The only thing I ever knew about lobotomizing was Kathleen Kennedy, President Kennedy's sister.
Honey Fitz had that taken care of.
That's a phenomenon that none of us ever think about. And apparently, the treatment of the times for the so-called shell shock, for what that was a World War I expression, shell shock, now it's post-traumatic stress disorder, however you call it, there's mental problems. And lobotomy, that was an interesting thing to read, that they did that. Tragic thing to read, too, by the by. But, of course, he's kind of pretty much of a vegetable. Nice fellow, sits around, 91-year-old guy, who would be 17 during the Second War, and here he is all alone. Mm-hmm. There would be stress.
Yes.
The fact that they thought that was the treatment at the time was rather interesting. I didn't even know they did that anymore. Well, they don't do it now, of course,
right.
now. But at that time, in the mid 40s and late 40s, did you ever hear the word at all now in medical practice, doctor?
No, we don't use it. There are some things medically that we that sound crazy to us, like lobotomy, but it was the up and coming. It was the best, the newest, and now we know, looking back, that it really didn't make any sense. And there are going to be things that we're doing now that they're going to be like, what were you doing?
Yeah.
So.
Well, of course, they had no medications of all that, and now they come up with all those different types of medication to hopefully help those situations.
Right.
Does stress lead to denial?
In what way?
Well, just generally speaking, folks under a lot of stress, can that lead to them being in denial that they don't have any problems or don't have any stress at all?
Absolutely. We try and build a shell. And so we protect ourselves with denial, among other things, that, we're doing all the right things, that we're taking care of ourselves, when actuality it's easier to not think that we have high blood pressure, that we've overindulged in food or drink, or that we really are awfully unhappy in our world, and that the only person who can really make a difference is for us to make that decision to change. And that might be, starting the exercise program. It might be pushing away that second glass of wine. Mm-hmm. It might be going to the doctor and saying, hey, I've had these situations going on in my life and I can't do it alone anymore. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to get out of bed. It's hard for me to focus. It's hard for me to face people. Sometimes counseling is the way that we can make a difference in people's lives from that perspective.
And a private practitioner, let's say a family practice, they're so doggone busy trying to keep up with today's medicine and so forth, and attending to the day-to-day humdrum details of treating people. I suppose, I don't know what far limb here, doctor, but I suppose it's fair to say that they really don't have time to act as counselors.
Well, we're not trained as counselors. We really don't get that during our medical training. But there are some suggestions that I make to people when they come in, like watching your diet, making sure that you're taking time for yourself. When I've got a young mother who has a couple kids that she's chasing after different ball games and activities, bands, and then she's also working and she has a significant other, then sometimes they get put on the back burner, and it's hard pressed for them to get enough sleep or to eat a meal because they're buying the kids McDonald's and shoving them out the door to the next activity. So sometimes I help them devise a plan to finding time for themselves. Sometimes it's just 15 minutes. If you can just carve out 15 minutes, that's doable for most of us. And then you build on that. Mm-hmm. Ideally, we'd all get an hour to ourselves to do whatever makes us feel good. That might be exercise, it might be reading a book, it might be sitting in a hot bathtub with, music, or just walking at the park, sometimes sitting outside and watching the moon at night because that nature brings us a sense of calm. But sometimes making a flag system in the house when you need a break is okay. So the kids know that when the bright red bow is on mom's bedroom door or on the study, then until the bow comes off, they leave mom alone unless the house is burning down or something's flooding. It's really an emergency, and you give mom that 15 minutes of space.
How do these young mothers today cope? I can't imagine their lives, and it's really pretty much across the board. Most of them work out of the home. They have their kids. They have to get the kids hither and yon all the time. They've got the house to keep. They've got yard work to do. They've got their job. They've got all the things going. I do not know how this generation keeps all the balls in the air. I can't imagine. I've always worked, but it's always been part-time so that I could kind of keep it together to some greater or lesser degree.
You had your family priorities. You've always had that priority. Family is first, and that's the way you've operated.
But how do these young mothers do it? And your daughters-in-law
right. Yeah.
are that way. My kids are that way. How do they do it? How do you do it?
So.
I think it is difficult, and I think you do need to decide your priorities. And I think there's a lot of pressure from society to put your kid in 6 activities. And and this is my personal opinion as well as a professional opinion, that kids don't have to be busy 24 hours a day. It's okay to say you can do football, but you can't do football, soccer, and band. Because that gives the parent time to not be driving 3 kids in 3 different directions all year round. But kids need downtime. We shouldn't take away recess. That's their exercise. That's their stress relief. And if you structure people 24 hours a day, their stress level goes up. I don't want you sitting on the couch 24 hours a day either. There's a balance.
No, they have to have activities that they're involved in. I feel. Because now I never did get Mother of the Year. I don't know whether you're aware of that, but
I voted for you several times.
Yeah, but nobody else did. So I may be all wet, but I do think that they have to have activities. They can't be just left to their own devices and sit there and text and monkey on the computer 24/7 either.
I agree.
They've got to be busy enough so that they don't have time for trouble.
True.
Speaking of being left to our own devices, we're going to be under considerable stress if we don't let Mr. Ash take a commercial break at this particular time. We're going to get right back. We have some other things we want to discuss with Dr. Melissa Cox. And we're right back live in the studio here, high on the top of Lazy Row. The program is Viewpoint. The station is 96.3. Oh, by the way, you must know that you're already tuned in.
Yeah, I guess that's
648-5510. I might have some questions. Dr. Melissa Cox, our guest this morning. We appreciate you taking your time this morning, Doctor, out of a busy schedule. Judith K., you had something that we're discussing off air that you wanted to get right in with, so go right ahead, please.
There was an item on the news about domestic violence, which is a phenomena that seems to escalate this time of year for a couple of reasons. People feel nervous about getting their act together, and people get in their cups at a party, and myriad things go on in their lives. And it's such an awful thing, because if I were your neighbor and did something to you, you wouldn't hesitate to tell the authorities
Right.
that I had taken your wallet or whatever I did. However, if a spouse does something to you, or a child, well, you just don't want the world to know. You don't want to air your dirty laundry, you know.
Right.
So you kind of grin and bear it. And that this is a bad time of year for those kinds of things to take place. Do you agree with that premise or not?
Oh, absolutely. Stress level goes higher, people drink more, people overspend or don't have the money to spend at all, and feel obligations to do things or make choices that take the money from the rent, the electricity in order to satisfy
Buy
culture,
lottery tickets last
society,
night.
to
Yeah, there's that.
you know, to buy enough gifts for everybody to make a show, which isn't the reason for Christmas, first of all. But yeah, when they've got all of those other things going on, then they can take it out on family members. And it's easier to hurt somebody you know than it is, you know, to take it out on a total stranger. And when that happens, then maybe the husband or the wife, whichever is the batterer, the other person is at risk. The kids see that. Their stress levels go higher. They don't understand. They don't know who to tell or if they should tell. And it is embarrassing. It shouldn't be, because it's not the person who's the victim that's done anything wrong, no matter what the batterer says. And so trying to seek out help, however that may come. It may be telling a neighbor or the doctor, or, you know, visiting Sojourn at the courthouse for help there through the domestic violence shelter. But trying to put things in perspective, making sure that if you have individuals in your family who tend to drink a little bit to excess, perhaps making that choice that you're not going to serve alcohol at your party, or perhaps if you do, it's going to be a limited amount so that there is no option for that kind of escalation to happen. And always seeking assistance is a good thing, but you have to have that inner strength to get there. And it's easy for us to judge, as somebody who's never been in a battering situation, to say, well, why doesn't she get out, or why doesn't he call somebody? It's not that easy, especially when you've got kids involved. Where do you go? You know, do you have their birth certificates? Do you have your social security card? Do you have a phone? Do you have any place to stay? If you decide to leave and then you can't make a go of it because you don't have money or you have a minimum wage job, then do you go back and then you maybe get hurt worse the second time or the third time? So I think from the outside, being as supportive of those people as you can, not judging them, not telling them what they should do, but listening, and when they need help or they're ready to work out that safety plan, then work it with them. Maybe as the neighbor or as the sister of someone who's battered, you tell them, when you need a place to stay, I am here, or we can hide your bag of clothes with a change for all of the kids, and I'll keep it under the bed and nobody has to know. But if the time is now for you to get out, I can be part of that safety plan. And so Sojourn is a really good place to work out those sorts of plans. They can help you identify who's somebody safe in your life, or whether or not it's something like the Sojourn shelter.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking, Judith Gay, a family practitioner such as Dr. Cox, and your daughter in her profession, they see a lot of the seamier things on the life side that most of us wouldn't be able to handle if we had that knowledge.
Right.
I mean, it takes a special mind and certainly a special heart to be able to work with that kind of a tough situation.
It is difficult. And, you know, I have to take care of myself because everything that happens in that office stays with me. I can't share it with anybody.
Yeah, that's right.
And one of the ways that I, for myself, deal with that is to journal. I write things down that I can't say to anyone, and I have a shredder. And as soon as it's written, it's shredded. because it's off of my heart,
Kind of purging yourself, so to speak.
but then it's confidential. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
And so it goes through the shredder, and nobody ever knows those things that I've
Yeah.
seen or heard that I can't share, but yet it doesn't overly burden me. Not that those people don't come to mind often.
Mm-hmm.
And you pray. You know, that's something that we can all do is, you know, hope
Those of us who grew up in a different time and when things were less frenetic and you had, quote, stable family situations. Now, I don't know how you define that, really. I know what works in my family.
Right.
And those of us who experienced that are indeed very, very, very lucky. Today, there seems to be a lot more stress on these young marrieds.
Yes.
Economics being the driving part of that, I presume.
Well, a lot of families start out with a couple having a wedding that they can't afford, a house payment that they can't afford.
Two new cars, one apiece.
And not new to me.
Oh, no. And new washer and dryer and a new Davenport.
Right.
Got to have all those things. Boy, I tell you, they wouldn't have been shopping at the Salvation Army, would they?
But I think that's a great way to do it.
Right. Exactly.
It works, believe me. Is the economy quite a contributor to, use that darn nasty word again, stress in today's world?
Yes, everything costs more. And there's the society norms that your kids have to wear this brand or that brand, or you have to have the latest phone with all of the gizmos.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure if you're not wearing the right outfit with the right brand name that your kid's not going to fit in. And then you get into bullying, which then creates more stress for everybody at home and at school. I don't see a plan for the economy to get better, something that we can just wiggle our nose and it's improved. It's going to be a slow process.
Well, they do say now that we should be getting a federal budget that will cover 2 years. However, they went on to say that it isn't what anybody wanted by way of budget. So I don't know whether we're
This is the
talking the
Christmas
good
season.
news or the bad news.
This is the Christmas season. I'll not decide to make a comment on that.
Okay.
Benevolence being what it should be on Christmas season.
Honest to John. But surely the economy and the idea that we all have to not get the kids' jeans at Jacques Penney or Target, one of those expensive import places. That's so silly. How did we get ourselves into this, for crying out loud?
It's been happening for decades. I'm not sure either how we got there, but I remember it from way back when I was a teenager and, you know, an adolescent, that the brands were out there. And I think I was fortunate in that my parents didn't, we had 6 kids. My dad worked. My mom was home with us trying to give us the best support she could, and I'm thankful for that. I think that that's made me who I am because I had 2 parents that loved me and mom was able to be home and help. But there was not the emphasis in our family. And mom said, well, if that's what you want, then you're going to have to find a way to do it because I can't afford Nike tennis shoes for all 6 of you, and I can't afford whatever brand of t-shirt or jeans it was at the time. So, you know, I think that parents are sometimes afraid to tell their kids that the clothes aren't what make the person, and so they want their kids to fit in, and so then they sort of snowball and everybody's dressed to the nines, and it's not always the best way.
You made reference to this darn bullying business. Do you think that has to do with people being stressed out and or jealous because they don't have the same brand that someone else does? What in the world is this bullying business? Surely in your practice you must run across this kind of thing.
Several times a week, and it's starting younger and younger. I have it as young as 1st and 2nd graders, and I have it all the way through high school. Generally, by the time college comes, that's sort of
Well, they graduate to hazing by then.
Yeah.
Moving right along.
True, true. But I think you can also find your own group. College is diverse enough that if you're the odd guy or girl out in high school because you're too smart or you like, a different thing, whether it's chess or whatever, you can find somebody who fits because there's so many different people from so many different places at college. In high school, you're sort of stuck in the people that are in your community and you don't have that diversity, and so you may be the only person who really loves chess, and so it's harder to fit in. Trying to support your kids, trying to give them a sense of self-esteem very early on is the best protection against bullying. And I don't think that you need to falsely inflate kids' self-esteem by telling them every single thing is perfect and they're the greatest artist, the greatest musician. But you should support their efforts. You should compliment what they do right and let them know that what they have is from here, not what's on the outside.
You don't, or you do, tell them when something goes well, you should be so proud of yourself.
Absolutely, but I don't think that we need to celebrate everything.
You blew your nose. How sweet.
Exactly. And so,
Isn't that nice?
and sometimes families do that. If they have done any kind of project at school. Oh, that's fantastic. Let's have a party. Well, it's nice to support the effort, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the pressure to get the A+, or to tell them that, oh gosh, you hit the first line drive on the baseball field, today, that is the most important thing, because then they get the idea that every little thing they do has to be celebrated. It doesn't have to be a party all the time.
But shouldn't they be aware that they have a responsibility to be all they can be?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes, you should expect things of your children because we need rules, we need guidelines. As humans, we thrive on routine. And so, yes, you need to work on making sure that kids are working to their expectations, but they shouldn't be studying 18 hours a day in order to get that A+ when they could, have life outside of school, or that ballet is the only thing because they're going to be a ballerina when
maybe not.
they're really a mediocre dancer, and that's okay. They can enjoy dance for dance. It's not going to be their job. It's not going to be their livelihood. I think we put external pressures on them early.
I think raising a family is probably about the hardest job that there is in the world.
I agree.
Most responsible, I can tell you that.
Mhm.
You never...
It's most important.
I was just sitting here thinking, Judith, and Doctor, I experienced denial and perhaps bullying in college. In a conversation with my father one time from the campus over there at Champaign, I dropped the hint that maybe I was out of money, and he said, well, that's funny, so am I. And that took care of the conversation. So I knew right away,
A short
don't
visit.
pursue that.
Well-
His theory was my tuition was paid, I had a roof over my head, and that was good enough.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And he was right, certainly. I felt kind of put upon at the time.
But you figured it out.
Yes, exactly correct. I went out and hustled and got myself a part-time job
There you go.
that worked with my schedule and took care of the problem.
Right.
Yeah, but that's good, to learn to take care of the problem yourself.
Yes.
You can't expect somebody else to fix it for you all the time. You've got to grow up.
Right.
Get on your big girl shoes. Right?
Is there any... Oh, no. I'm going to deny my own question. I started to ask a stupid question, Judith.
There's no such thing as a stupid question. Stupid answers,
Well,
yes, but never a stupid question.
Dumb question. Is there any one answer? It's obviously not. There's not one answer because it's so complex.
Right.
But when you see patients on a day-to-day basis, do you see improvements in individual situations, Doctor?
Sure. And I think that the way to get to that point is for the patient to realize within themselves that they need help, whether that's on controlling their blood pressure or how much they drink or, just reprioritizing. This conversation with Judy started because she wanted to know how she was going to get everything done before Christmas. And I told her that it's okay to make changes. It's okay to re-stratify what's always been the norm. If you've always done 6 kinds of cookies, it's okay to say this year we're picking one kind and everybody gets that on their tray. Or, we're not going to decorate the outside, the inside, the bedroom, the bathroom, the basement.
Yeah, right.
We're going to downsize a little bit. And new memories aren't necessarily bad things. You can start new traditions, and maybe that's going to be something that in 10 years you're going to celebrate in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I've found that when you reach a little age, you finally say, well, what the heck, I didn't get it done, so what?
Yeah, nobody died.
Except for Judy. Was losing sleep over her cards.
Dr. Melissa Cox, we appreciate very much your presence with us this morning. Hopefully somebody out there in ether land picked up a hint now and then. The bottom line is try to stay cool and not get too stressed out. And if you do, there are sources for consultation, and that's important to know.
Never be afraid to seek help.
Stress being the word of denial. This is kind of a very serious subject, but so I don't want to be too trite with the closing comment, but there was a comment about denial. And Washington is a place where all rumors are ignored until somebody says that they're not true and they deny them. Thank you very much for your point. Dr. Cox, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.